Welcome, everyone, to the Resilient, Wild, and Unstoppable Community Interview Series. And please be engaging and have conversations and ask questions as I introduce these wonderful, amazing people to our community. And today we are going to be speaking to Lisa Condon, and I'm so excited because she's just a wealth of knowledge, information, beauty in every way, shape, and form. And so, Lisa, what is it you do and who are you? What do you want to tell the audience about you?
Well, first of all, Kat, thank you. And thank you so much for doing this series. It's just just a wonderful way to bring people together. And I'm so excited to be part of it. You know, professionally, I mean, just using, terminology, right? So I'm a business consultant, I'm a life strategist, and I'm a gratitude practitioner. That's what I do. However, the way that I bring all of that, I think, to the world energetically is it looks different, perhaps, than how others might bring it, because I think we all have our flavor, right, of what we
Mhm.
do. But for me, I really believe that everything, if based in the foundation of gratitude, and then the next level of aligning with your core value system, I think that is the starting point of your roadmap for life or business. And I also truly believe that because we're one person, we bring ourselves to everything that we do. So I don't think you can talk about one without the other. So I think if you're talking about business, you have to talk about life. If you're talking about life, you have to talk about business. Um, and the other thing that I think that I would say is I also, I've got a little woo-woo going on, and I think for a long time I hid that side of
Mhm.
myself because of living in that corporate space for a really long time. And yet that's part of the magic that I know I bring to the table, and I think many others probably in your sphere do as well, Kat. And so by really bringing both of those together, you get to really talk to and work with the whole person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I just tell people I'm science and woo.
Science and woo. I love it. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm office and woo. Like I play office and I bring some woo into it.
So, what inspired you to be on this journey?
That's a great question. I chuckle because as a kid, all my friends were playing Barbies and House and Strawberry Shortcake dolls, and I played Office. And that is literally what I played. And so it's comical because my mom would even just crack up when I had started my company. She just shook her head and she's like, "You're still playing Office as an adult." Um, but what really for me started it was I had a really good corporate career and I was on the upward trajectory for a really long time. And things started just feeling wrong and out of place for me. I didn't know it then. I know it now in hindsight that it was just a misalignment of values. And one day, after being asked many, many, many times, do you consult? Do you freelance? Do you do this? And my answer was always no. And then there was a point of where I was asked to do something that impacted my staff that just did not feel right for me. And I happened to have somebody ask me that same day, hey, by the way, do you consult? And that day, my answer became, yes, I do. And that's what started the journey. What keeps me on the journey, though, is watching the transformations that people have, that businesses have, which ultimately leads to what communities have in the work that I do. And that is so meaningful because I do believe that you can change the world one person at a time.
Mhm.
And the work that I do helps people to see their path to being able to do that.
That is awesome. I got spirit spark spirit sparkles. I can't talk today. When
Spirit sparkles. Cat, I love spirit sparkles. That's the best. That's awesome. I just see the glitter coming. That's so fantastic.
you probably stick to goosebumps because spirit sparkles are like a little harder to say. It's like a little
Yeah.
twister.
Mm.
So if you were to provide maybe three valuable tips to our audience, what would those be?
Whew. I think the first is about core values. And oftentimes, so do the work. Do the work to figure out what your core values are. Don't just make an assumption. And the reason for that, I'll just elaborate for a second, if I might, is that for so many of us, we put layers on of what we think we should be. And this comes from reading magazines, talking to people, teachers, parents, name it. And over the years, we've just put on these layers. And the what we think we should have as a value might not necessarily be what's at our core. And so you end up really pushing against each other. So do the work and work with either a coach and or a trusted friend or an accountability partner to ask you the hard questions as you are using a tool or a resource to get to what those core values are. Um, the second thing is pay attention to how you're feeling. And because if something feels off or misaligned or just that gut of like, ugh, that just doesn't feel good, pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to that because nobody knows you better than you know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times I did not pay attention to that over the years. And once you do and you're in alignment with yourself, things just really flow in a really beautiful way. Um, and I think the third thing is never stop learning about yourself because as you continue to grow and start integrating new things into your life, the person that you were even 5 minutes ago, you're not now because things have happened in those 5 minutes that have changed you in some way, shape, or form. And calling yourself science, right? Cat like at literally at the atomic core of who you are, right? Your atoms change. So that learning just allows you to say, you know what was true for me before might not be my truth now, and continue to be really curious about yourself.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yes. You mentioned only because gratitude keeps swirling up above
Mm,
me here. You
mhm.
mentioned gratitude. What are some gratitude tips? Because I feel like the world needs more gratitude infusion.
Mm. The first is you don't have to do everything all at once. I think oftentimes we try to get into this mindset, especially this time of year in America. We're headed towards Thanksgiving, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I have to do my 30 days. And no, you don't. Meet yourself where you're at. For me, when I started my gratitude practice, it was literally posting three things on Facebook that I was grateful for because I actually stole it, quote unquote, from a friend of mine who started doing it. And it was really topical stuff. And that was okay. It became the consistency piece that became important. And then what was topical became more meaningful. And then I started having this transformation internally about how I felt, but it was a process. So start small, start with what you can do. And that might be one thing each day that you find that you're grateful for. And that's what you write it down in a post-it note and hang it up on your wall. It might be that you post it on Facebook like I did, or you might have a gratitude journal and for you, it's natural to just write a few sentences about it. The key, though, is that consistency allows you to integrate it into your life. So, another way to integrate it, just like with any habit, is look at a habit that you already do and add this onto it. So if
Mhm.
you know, like the first thing you do in the morning is brush your teeth, well, maybe it's you brush your teeth and right after you brush your teeth, or as you're, rinsing your mouth out, you start to think about what am I grateful for in this moment? And then what you do with that, write it on lipstick on your mirror. I don't care what you do, but it's just attaching it to something else that you already do. Or my goodness, if you're a calendaring person, put it in your calendar.
Oh,
Give
yeah.
yourself 30 minutes to reflect on what gratitude you have going on in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. I suddenly had a vision. It's like, all right, brush my teeth. Grateful for having teeth.
Yes, absolutely. But that's the thing. It starts somewhere because as if you start with too much, it's just like what I say with core values too. I have people start with the top two because to try to integrate something into your life, if it's too overwhelming, guess what happens? You stop doing it.
Hmm.
So start small and then grow from there. And again, if you go back to the being curious about yourself and what you learn about yourself, it all really ties together. But I have I think you know this. I have an entire framework around gratitude because it's work that literally has changed my life, but it didn't start there. It really started with three things. That's it. And I didn't even do it every day at first. And then I realized by doing it every day, I started changing. So start small, start with however small you need to do it. And if it's too much, then make it smaller.
Yeah.
And then if that's too much, make it smaller until it feels good to do it.
Yeah. And it's really cool to hear the backstory on the gratitude on like your Facebook posts because I've seen the posts,
Hmm.
but I didn't know where they started from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Long
really
time
cool.
ago. Yeah.
Any last words that you want to share with our audience before we shut down this video?
I think the last word is this. Time is such a gift. And when you're able to offer time, to have conversation, to express gratitude, to be in the present moment and connect with somebody else, find a way to say yes to do that because it's in those moments that that magic will happen and that will spark and create a ripple effect that will move on to the next person because you just never know who you're going to impact by that work. So that's it.
Absolutely. And our world needs a whole lot more of that.
Yes, it does.
This has been so much fun, Lisa, and I appreciate you doing this interview. And thank you.
Kat, thank you so much.